Whoa, 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 whoa.
Wait, what's the problem?
This
What's the matter?
This is not a Jet show.
So what?
So how about this?
Manning lobs it. Boris alone. Touchdown, New York.
Oh, come on. I don't want to hear this.
Why not? Super Bowl champions.
Doesn't matter. I just don't want to hear it.
What do you want to hear?
How about some Mets?
Hey, if I can find one good thing that happened to the Mets, here we go.
Home run. Mike Piazza. And the Mets lead 3-2.
Oh, yeah. It's got to be, I'm sorry. We all can't be like the Yankees.
Oh, speaking of.
This one by Mattingly. Oh, hang on to the roof. Goodbye, home run. Don Mattingly.
No. God, I can't believe I just said that. All right, well, listen. How about a little Nets?
If I have to.
Kid, the jumper to win it. He got it.
I can't take it. I can't take it anymore. It's been a second. I can't take it. How about some Knicks?
Oh, yeah. Big spenders. Can't win a playoff.
Fair enough.
Houston pops out up top, down the lane, running jumper off the front rim, and in.
I guess we should talk a little hockey, no?
People even watch hockey anymore?
They watch the Rangers.
Well, if you have the Rangers, you gotta have some violence.
Yeah, no, they didn't have YouTube in the 80s.
All right, let's get the show started.
Here we are, polar opposites. Hello and welcome to the Polar Opposites podcast on polaropposites.podbean.com. We are also live on Spreaker right now. You can see us bi-weekly on Strong Island TV, on Facebook Live. We are also on TuneIn. We're on iTunes. And you can follow us on Twitter at the Matt Show 36. I'm sorry, wrong one. At Polar Opposites 1.
Are you serious?
I do a lot of different podcasts, and I get confused. I have
Don't
many
pour
different,
out your other podcasts
I have
on
many
this show.
other things going on. At Polar Opposites 1. Soon the amount of places we're on will make the show just too long. Will just be that. It'll just be us telling you what everything's on.
Yeah, we may have to have a show just for that.
Yeah, I'm Matt Stevens. Alongside me, as always,
Is Craig Moffat.
and Craig.
Mateo, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good, man.
We
See,
had
this is a different feel now because we had a little bit of what we might call the champagne and caviar of Strong Island TV to the cramped.
Hey,
Well, I'm staring at the back of your television.
hey,
Okay.
it's nice TV though.
It is actually pretty nice.
It's nice TV. So for those of you who don't know, we do have a show from last week. It's on. Go to Facebook. You can go to Strong Island TV and radio. They also have a website, Strong Island TV.
StrongIsland.tv.
StrongIsland.tv. You can check it out there.
They also have
it's
a
a good
YouTube
show.
and they also have a YouTube channel where we're on as well.
And you can also call in there as well if you ever want to talk to us, and that's always a fun time. We got a lot to get to today. We have a new segment. We're actually going to start ending the show with Polar Bipolar. We like the way that worked in the hour format last week, so we're going to end the show with that. Closing time is dead for now. We may bring it back in a future incarnation if we ever get longer shows. But we're going to do a little segment called Halftime, which is where we're going to cover a lot of the off-the-field stuff that's happening in sports right now.
Stuff basically that not a lot of people are talking about.
Right, and also stuff that you don't see. Like, you have to read about sports to hear, like things that are happening in China and things that are happening in Cleveland and
with President
Cincinnati.
Trump, Dennis.
And we have a new afternoon drive show in New York City. So all those things will be covered in halftime. That'll be a 12-minute to go along with the halftime. A 12-minute deal. It'll be 4 topics, 3 minutes a topic, and we'll go about our day. Where we're going to start, though, unfortunately in this town, the season that is over before it began.
That's true.
The NFL season in New York is like.
Do you want to start with the Giants or the Jets?
Well, I'm going to say. Here's what I'm going to say about the Giants. I listened to a lot of sports talk yesterday because after a loss, I want to hear. I like to hear the misery and the craziness. And let me just tell everybody to relax for a minute, okay? First of all, nobody died, okay? Your team sucks. All right, they suck, and they weren't supposed to, which is probably the worst thing that could happen, right?
Sure.
Like the Mets, you're a Met fan. Like the Mets are supposed to be good this year, and they ended up not being good. Now, for different reasons in the end, and so on and so forth, but that doesn't change the fact that it's hard to deal with when your team is supposed to be good and they end up sucking. I don't want revisionist history. I don't want to hear about, oh, this is not the Giants organization. This is not the way the Giants do things. I'm a Giant fan. The Giant organization let Lawrence Taylor run roughshod around this city. Run roughshod, doing whatever he wanted to do for years. Okay? They made a trade. They got Kerry Collins after he walks out of a freaking police station with a cigar in his mouth. All right, because they needed a quarterback because Dave Brown sucks.
And Collins actually was pretty good.
He
for the
was.
Giants, too.
I'm not. But,
Went to the Super Bowl.
Right, but this idea that like this is not the Giants. Look, guys, the world is different now. Players are different now. A lot of these guys have money. Janoris Jenkins has money, so he doesn't have to tackle guys when the teams are losing.
I'm going to be very honest, and this is not towards you because you're more one of the more down-to-earth Giant fans that I've been in contact with.
I got 2 Super Bowls in the last 10 years. I'm okay.
I'll take one of those any day as a Jet fan.
And be under 500 the rest of the time.
I don't give a crap. If I had a Super Bowl in the amount of time the Giants have won 2 Super Bowls,
Yeah,
if I had one, I would be perfectly happy with that, and I could be complacent with the fact that my team was 8-8 or 9-7 every year. Here's the problem. First of all, if I hear one more time about the Giants back in the 60s and,
nobody cares.
Matt and I weren't born then.
No, nobody cares.
Okay, and I'm pretty sure 3/4 of the Giant fans probably weren't born then either.
Nobody on the team.
Okay, so nobody cares about Y.A. Tittle anymore, even though he was a great Giant. Nobody cares about what happened in the 50s and the 60s.
Nobody cares about Phil Simms.
Okay, the fact is look, here's my problem with the Giants in general right now. Is last week, it's amazing how McAdoo goes from a playoff coach
to the worst coach
to the worst coach in football history, and you got to run him out of New York.
Yep, done.
Never mind the fact he was a playoff coach last year.
Nope.
Okay? Whether he's lost the locker room, and the jury's still out on that, because to be very honest, what I found really ridiculous to me was how the Giant players were back in McAdoo, and rightfully so. You had 2 guys, or, anonymous, use the term anonymous.
No, gutless is a better term.
Okay,
Gutless.
who come out and say that McAdoo's lost the team, and I'm convinced one of them is Janoris Jenkins.
Oh,
okay, I am convinced.
Gotta get got.
One of them is Janoris.
He's got to get got.
Okay,
come on, guys.
Because I could tell by his crappy attitude after he came back from his suspension, because you could tell he was still pissed about it.
Dude, watch. He tackled like if I was playing the NFL, like he went after guys like I would.
I would have given more effort. I mean, I would have probably collapsed on the field afterwards, but I would have given more effort than what Janoris Jenkins did. But the thing is that they went to bat for McAdoo saying, he's our coach, he's our coach, he's our coach. And then they come out and have this embarrassment of a game on Sunday. And the thing was, what bothered me in general was the fact that they were trying to blame Eli again, which just pisses me off even more. It's almost like you're inadvertently making him the scapegoat. Now, listen, he had that one bad play on the fumble, and I could understand what he was trying to do.
He's trying to get rid of the ball,
he
make it an incomplete pass.
Okay. But at the same time, the offense was moving. Shepard was playing well.
The defense gave
Ingram
up
was
some
playing
of the worst
well.
plays. But let me just say this, and then we're going to get to the
for
Jets.
the
We're going to
love
get
of
to a
God.
team that is at least trying. Unless something major happens, I can't imagine us talking too much about the Giants over the next coming months. Because I refuse to talk about a team that doesn't want to show up. I refuse to waste time on the precious little time we have on this show every week talking about a team that decided, that guys who are making millions of dollars decided to just not tackle a guy. So that being said, the Giants, enjoy the rest of your season. I hope you get a super high draft pick, and I hope you take that draft pick, and I hope you use it on an offensive lineman, because I think that makes the most sense. Oh, I know.
Everybody wants him to draft Sam Darnold now.
I know.
Because of course it's all Eli's fault.
Did you hear Sam Darnold though? The thing about him?
No.
When it was the Jets, when it was the suck for Sam, he was like, I'm going back to school, and now it's at the Giants. He's like, oh, maybe I'll leave school. Let me say this: Eli Manning isn't the problem. Eli Manning needs to be protected. Eli Manning is like Tom Brady. If Eli Manning gets a lot of pressure, he's a bad quarterback. It's the opposite of Aaron Rodgers, where when Aaron Rodgers is under pressure, he's an amazing quarterback because he can freaking move around like a stupid jackrabbit. It's like Frogger, and he's all over the place. But Eli Manning isn't that. If you give him, case in point, he won 2 Super Bowls with a really good offensive line. You know why? Because he had time to throw the stupid ball. It's very simple. Now we're going to talk about the Jets. And even though the Jets lost, and even though their offense was pretty terrible, they played hard in that game.
It's not a bad thing.
No, it's not.
I said it like this, okay? Because I was talking to a few people after the game, okay? And this was one of those games that I was, everybody was like, yeah, the Jets are going to win. They're going to blow them out. They're going to, forget it. It's Ryan Fitzpatrick. That wasn't really it. It was the fact that everyone forgets that the Jets are still like
young,
an average team. Like they're not a playoff team. They're still an average to a somewhat below average team right now because they still have a lot of young guys.
Right.
You have Forte out. You had, Curley suspended. I'm not saying that these are difference makers, but every little bit helps on this team right now. So if you don't have those two guys, you could be in trouble.
Right.
The offensive line is still a disaster. They still give up too many sacks. They don't open holes well enough for the running backs. And that's it. Here's what I'll take from that game. I'm pissed that they lost, but I'm also not pissed that they lost because I think sometimes games like this are exactly what the Jets need just to be reminded that they're not as good as they think they are.
Right.
Okay? You've talked about it a bunch of times on the show where we talked about how you don't want to be an 8-8 team, a 9 or 7-9 or whatever, because it's a failure. Because then you're just picking in the middle of the pack and you're right back to where you started.
Mediocrity is the worst thing you can be.
And you don't want to be a playoff team because you may not be able to handle the schedule the following year when you play tough teams.
Look at the Giants.
Okay, so in that sense, it's like I was bummed that they lost. I thought the defense played well for the most part. The offense just couldn't really get anything going.
Right.
That's really what it was. But at the end of the day, I can't be too bummed because it puts us in a good spot for a draft pick right now. Granted, we're 4-6. We have a bye coming up, but now you get into the tough schedule. Kansas City, New Orleans, Carolina. You're gonna be playing a lot of tough teams. Even the Chargers are a pain.
Right.
Are a pain in the ass to play because they'll grind it out to the end. So look, at the end of the day, I'm pissed that they lost, but at the same time, my expectations weren't that high to begin with, so I guess I can't be too upset that right now into the bye they're 4-6.
No, and considering that nobody would have had them at 4-6 going into the bye at the beginning of the season, it's really good for them. And if the Jets lose out, as long as they play hard, it's not about winning or losing. It's about watching the team under the coach. Because right now what you're doing is you're evaluating for next year. Look, Todd Bowles is trying to win every game. The Jets players are trying to win every game. That I get it. I'm not trying to say that they're not. But they're evaluating for next year, and that includes the coach. Can he keep the players while the team does go on a little skid when they're not dealing with prosperity? Do the players give up, like what happens on the Giants? Do those things happen? And those things get watched, and then if whatever happens at the end of the season, you get released, you get brought back.
And you don't see them quitting. You see them playing hard.
They're just not. Look,
they're still a year. They're still at least a year or two away, and a few impact players away.
You can play the bet, and the 49ers are a huge case of this. The 49ers play hard every week. They just don't have a lot of talent. Now, they beat the Giants, but that's easy right now because the Giants have given up. But I'm saying that playing hard isn't enough. You have to have people with talent on your team because the other team has talent on their team. We're going to get to that with the NBA later with the Knicks Cavs. It was the same thing last night, right? It was the same thing. Mm-hmm. You had a team that was terrible for 3 quarters, but has so much more talent on the floor at any given time that they can just turn it on and off. Exactly. And that's what happens when you're playing a team like the Jets. A lot of teams are going to have more talent than them, but they can play hard enough and win some of those games. And that's what you want to see from them. That's all you want to see from them is progress. The young guys, this wide receiver core, who you didn't have any idea who they were at the beginning of the year, and now you know some of them, you want to see them get better. You want to see your offensive line get better. You want to see your safeties get better. As long as they do that, even if you end the season 5-11, it's a win.
Sure.
You want to do a little playoff picture?
Yeah, let's jump into the playoff picture right now at the NFL. Obviously, the Steelers get a win yesterday over on Sunday against the Colts. A little tougher than I thought because you didn't really see Bell or Antonio Brown have like really big games.
But that's what the Steelers do, right? They always play down to their competition. They don't blow people out ever.
Right now, they are tied with the Patriots for the first seed. The Patriots get obviously a huge win on Sunday night, where Brock Osweiler literally took somebody's head off on the sideline with a pass.
That's brutal. And I wish that they would have gone and replayed it because I actually turned that game on for a second.
Yeah.
Right. Just for a second. Just
like,
I didn't really
remember the scene in Varsity Blues where Moxon throws at the mascots and the guy on the horse on the sideline. That's what it looked like.
That's what it looked like.
It was like a missile that just took the guy's head off.
Basically, you're looking at the Steelers in New England and then sort of everybody else because everybody else is in the muck and the mire, right? I mean, I know that Kansas City and Tennessee and Jacksonville are 6-3, but are you really making any of those teams the favorite over New England? And I know that Kansas City beat the Patriots in the first game of the year. I get it. But I'm still not making the Chiefs the favorite in any of those games. I'm not.
They haven't looked as lights out as they were the first few weeks of the season.
Well, they've had it's just injuries, right? It's just injuries.
Between the injury to Berry where he missed the season and, a few other injuries and stuff. but they just haven't really looked at lights out. Even a guy like Spencer Ware, although Kareem Hunt has played
He's
really,
been
really
good
well for them. But I've always, outside of Tyreek Hill, though, like they don't have a lot on the outside.
Their
either.
wide receiver, well, they didn't re-sign Macklin, and I mean he wasn't great for them, but he was still one of their deep threats. They didn't re-sign him. But like even the Jaguars, I mean, he threw 2 interceptions in the last 4 minutes of that game, and they won.
Yeah.
Like, that's insane.
And that's because Rivers threw a horrible interception in overtime.
And their defense is excellent. Their defense is very good.
Get after
if
the
they make it,
quarterback.
no, if they make it anywhere, and let's be fair, if you're Eli Manning, before that you should have been like, hey, I'll go to Jacksonville. You know what I mean? Like, why not? But I mean, look, and the Jets they're 10th right now, but they're 4-6. But when you consider that 5-6 or 6-3 and 5-4, the Jets are still sort of in it. The Dolphins, I mean, if the Dolphins score points, they win the game. The problem is in 3 of their 4 games, they haven't scored any points, which is sort of insane to think about in the NFL, right? Not scoring any points.
I mean, again,
3
but
times
that's
in a season.
always been their offense. So they've never really been that huge, big baller offense like you see the Patriots or even the Steelers to a, obviously greater
But
extent.
wasn't that why they brought in Gase?
Of course it was, but you're still not seeing it on the field. And then on top of that, you trade away your best running back in Jay Ajayi for whatever reason. I know Gase wasn't really a big fan of his, but pretty much at this point, you're trading away this guy. Landry's more of a possession receiver. Devontae Parker's been hurt off and on all season. And Julius Thomas, who was supposed to be a big tight end acquisition for them from the Jaguars, has done nothing.
I'm doing something right now. We are in past week was week 10, so we're about to go into week 11. The Dolphins, Texans, Bengals, Chargers, Broncos, Colts, and Browns are all done.
Yes, the Texans. It's unfortunate because Watson tore his ACL.
If Watson didn't tear his ACL, I would not dumb them.
But then again, it's look at the Bengals. Same team every year, and you get the same result. In fact, this result is worse than it was the previous few years.
And last year was bad, but they had a ton of injuries, including A.J. Green. But all those teams, and I'm not putting the Jets in there yet, because even though they have a tough schedule, they do play hard. And if they can squeak out a couple of those wins, 8-8 might get you in the wild card. It just might.
Now, what do you think for a team like Oakland? 4-5, starting to kind of turn it on a little bit.
Let me say this. They need to make the playoffs. They're 4-5 right now, okay? They're in the 8th spot, right? 1 or 2 spots behind Buffalo for the 5 spot.
Right.
Or the 6th spot, I'm sorry. They need to make the playoffs. You need to make the playoffs. You are young. You have a coach who's been there. You were in the playoffs last year, and the only reason we said that you lost that game was because your quarterback got hurt.
Right.
You need to make the playoffs. Sorry, Oakland, but it's in front of you, right? If you win, you
But I'll
should.
even give you another team. Look at a team like the Ravens. It's they've been horrible on offense all season, and they're still in the thick of it. I mean,
Yeah, but I'm not putting them in there either.
what about Buffalo after that loss?
Their defense is good enough to get them to an 8-8, 9-7, and again, I think that's going to get that. The last spot in the AFC could be under 500.
The Titans are starting to pull away a little bit. We kind of knew what they were going to be, and they're finally starting to realize it. I don't necessarily know if Malarkey's the right coach for them. But, I mean, overall...
That style of offense doesn't win. They don't score enough points in a playoff game to win, and their defense isn't good enough to hold teams. Their defense isn't the Broncos of a couple years ago or the Seahawks of a couple years ago. They don't score enough points. I understand you have to run the ball, but your offense in the NFL today can't be a run-first offense. It can't, and that's where they're going to screw the pooch in the end.
Did you see the latest Cleveland Browns... Did you see Deshaun Kaiser...
Right.
calls an audible with 15 seconds left and no timeouts. It was a quarterback sneak.
Nice.
And he got it to the 2.
Yes. That sounds exactly right. Although not as good as John Fox challenging a play, which caused a turnover and then lost his team a game instead of just running the damn play. Real quick on the NFC, let's be fair. The Eagles are winning the East. I think that's a foregone conclusion at this point.
After watching the Cowboy game on Sunday with the Falcons, man, I'm not saying Zeke is a huge loss. He's a loss. He's a big loss. But they should be able to overcome that with Prescott and Dez and all that stuff. That's why, I agree with you 100%. The Eagles,
but their offensive line has been crap.
Yeah.
Their offensive line has not been good.
And their running game and obviously with Morris and McFadden hasn't been good at all.
But that's all starts at the O-line for them.
Yeah.
Because under the O-line of last year, any one of those guys gets in there. Let's say this. Cardinals, Bucks, Bears, Giants, Niners are all done. Everybody else is in the mix. You're talking about Redskin team that's 4-5, but again, they get to play the Giants twice, so that's 2 wins right there. Mm-hmm. So you get that going for you. The Packers, I'm gonna dun them too because that last week was an aberration. He is terrible. That quarterback's terrible.
Yeah, he is.
And let's just say this: never hire a coach that was Aaron Rodgers' coach because Just hire Aaron Rodgers. Like, that's what you need. You don't need the guy that coached Aaron Rodgers because Aaron Rodgers didn't need coaching. That's all I have to say about that. But I think the Falcons are definitely in. I think that was a big win for them.
I think the Lions are definitely sneaky team right
absolutely.
now. I mean, I know they beat the Browns, and the Browns gave them a little bit of a headache in the first half of that game. But Stafford's been playing well. Golden Tate and Marvin Jones have actually been great.
Yeah.
The one thing I still say that kills me about the Lions is they have no friggin' running game.
No, they don't. And that
Absolutely, and it's been like since Sanders.
And the opposite of the Titans, you have to have some semblance of a running
Sure.
game to win. So those two teams should talk to each other, and maybe like the Lions get one of the Titans running backs, and the Titans get one of the Lions wide receivers,
Yep.
and we can all have fun. But let's be fair, the Eagles are probably coasting to a 1 seed and home field advantage throughout, which will be good for them. The Vikings are still ahead. The Saints are on a huge win streak right now. The thing about the Saints is, can they beat a team outside in cold weather in January? We'll find out.
Because they haven't been there in a while. So
It's indeed true.
So outside of that, you have the Rams right now in the 4 seed. You have the Panthers with a win yesterday on the 5 seed. The Panthers have a bye this week, and then the Seahawks round out the 6 for the NFC right now. This is the Polar Opposites Podcast. Check us out, as always, at polaropposites.podbean.com, iTunes, Spreaker.com, TuneInRadio.com. Follow us on Twitter at PolarOpposites1, and want to let our listeners know that next Tuesday is at November, what's today? November 21st.
Yes.
Okay,
sure.
there it is. November 21st, we are back on Strong Island Radio, Strong Island TV. So you can check us out there at strongisland.tv, and it will also be as Facebook Live. It's also available on YouTube as well. So again, next Tuesday, November 21st, 9 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time, we are going to be on strongisland.tv. We have hit the halfway point of the show, Maddie. So it's time to do a little halftime. Although we'll find a better name for that later.
No, I like halftime.
I don't know. It seems like kind of corny.
But I think we might need some like college marching band music for halftime.
We got to get the Sooners, the Irish.
Yeah,
I
well,
mean, come
maybe
on.
I'll go and get all the old classics, and we'll
Might have
we'll
to,
try
yeah.
that.
It's
We'll try
very
that.
big.
We'll give it a shot.
Maybe something from like Drumline.
Maybe. No. Stop it.
Listen, if you're going to get a battle of the bands, you get Grambling and Southern University, the two best bands in college football.
Yes.
Here we go. 4 topics. Maddie going to spend 3, and I going to spend 3 minutes each on each topic. Maddie, I already know you're ready. We'll get you fired up for polar bipolar.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good to go. I'm ready to go.
Here we go. Maddie, number 1. LeVar Ball's youngest son, LeAngelo Ball, a freshman guard at UCLA, and 2 of his teammates, Cody Riley and Jalen Hill, were released from custody in China and headed back to Los Angeles after they were arrested for shoplifting a pair of Louis Vuitton sunglasses while the team was visiting for a game against Georgia Tech last week. Now, reportedly, President Trump heard about the players being arrested and spoke with Chinese President Xi Jinping about having the players released. The Pac-12 issued a statement saying, quote, "The matter has been resolved to the satisfaction of the Chinese authorities, and we want to thank the President, the White House, and the U.S. State Department for their efforts towards resolution." Maddie, in your opinion, did Donald Trump get involved in this issue because it was LeVar Ball's son?
Probably, because when you see a blowhard jackwagon idiot who is a real moron when it comes to his kids, you want to help that guy. And since you can smell your own, he definitely wants to help him, since they're the same person, right? Like, LeVar is just the black Donald Trump, right? He's just a blowhard idiot who says things that aren't true all the time, can't back them up, and then considers them facts, which is why I played the Night Court theme. But, I mean, look, do I think Donald Trump... I think the Chinese government is smart enough to know that, like, they can make examples of certain people, and certain people you necessarily can't make examples of. And when you know this family to be kind of famous in this country, you don't necessarily make it, examples of them. And so they let him go. But the kid is an idiot. Your brother's a millionaire. Your father apparently should be a millionaire, right?
Well, of course, mentally he's
right.
a millionaire.
But, like, what are you stealing? What are you doing?
just
What are you doing
stupid,
it
man.
in China for? Why don't you go to North Korea and steal something, you idiot?
I just don't get, like, when these guys are ever going to learn, man. Like, why would... And that's, like, they're tough on stuff like that. You can go to prison.
Yo, 23 years or so, 23 months. It was 23 months was, like, sort of what I heard.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, why would you even risk that when you're only going to be in China for a couple of days in a basketball game, in a tournament? I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous.
Always is. Number 2, the Browns and Bengals reportedly had a deal completed at the trade deadline where Cleveland would receive QB A.J. McCarron for Cincinnati for a 2nd and 3rd round pick in the 2018 draft. However, the NFL canceled the deal after the Browns failed to notify the league before the 4 p.m. Eastern deadline. That ended quicker than I thought. According to Jason LaCanfora, numerous coaches believe Brown GM Sashi Brown had no intention of actually completing the agreed-upon trade because the Browns are well aware of the procedures required for completing trades. Craig, do you think the Browns had no intention of making this deal for A.J. McCarron?
I think they had every intention of making this deal, but I just think they're that dumb to not report it to the league before 4 p.m. Now, listen, I don't know what time it was sent. If it was 4:05, maybe the NFL's being a little hard on them. Because even in Major League Baseball, they let teams work out deals.
It's called a window.
After the deadline passes,
Yeah,
right?
a window.
I mean, we've seen that 100 times over. The fact is the Browns, I think this might be a little bit of a blessing in disguise for Cleveland because they gave up a second and third round pick for a quarterback. We don't even know if he's any good. And if you're going to do that, you might as well just made the deal to get Garoppolo from New England, right? I mean, Garoppolo would probably be better than A.J. McCarron. So in that sense, yeah, I mean, I think they had every intention of making the deal. I just really think that they are incredibly dumb in the Cleveland front office and didn't notify the league when they should have.
Yeah, right? I mean, because why the hell would you go through the process of talking to the team, figuring out things you're going to trade for? Why would you do that? And then at the last minute, not sending the paperwork because you got scared? Like, why would you go through all of that?
But think about that.
Not sending the paperwork doesn't make any sense.
Now think about this. If you really did that, right? If you really went around and said, oh, yeah, we just decided not going to do the deal. First of all, that leaves a really crappy taste in the mouths of a lot of teams to the point where they're never going to want to make a trade with you because you're not taking it seriously.
Right.
You wanted A.J. McCarron. I'm going to assume Cleveland made the phone call to Cincinnati to get A.J. McCarron. And then because, there was a paper mix-up. What the hell is that? That doesn't make any sense. Because someone forgot to copy the NFL on an email? I mean, you got to be kidding me, right?
There's no way that would happen.
Yeah. So it leads me to believe that if they're going to be shady like that, then they're never going to be able to make a deal because no team is going to ever trust them to commit to a deal, plain and simple.
I agree.
Number 3, speaking of McCarron, the backup Bengals QB has reportedly filed a grievance against his current team in hopes of becoming an unrestricted free agent after this season. McCarron is citing his rookie year in 2014 when he was drafted by Cincinnati in the 5th round of that draft. He passed his post-draft physical, but the team put him on the non-football injury list with a shoulder issue. McCarron claims he was healthy to come off the NFI list in training camp, but the Bengals didn't take him off that list until December 9th, which meant it would be too late for him to accrue a year of free agency. Because of those actions, McCarron is now only a restricted free agent this year, which could hurt his earning potential. Maddie, does McCarron have a case against the Bengals?
Yeah, probably. I mean, it sounds exactly like what the Cubs did with Chris Bryant and all that crap. It's all this nonsense, right? Because there's got to be loopholes. Because rich people need loopholes, right? Because for regular people, it's simple. I'm healthy, okay, go to work, right? We don't have the luxury of loopholes. But these guys, they all want loopholes. And so this is a loophole. If I draft a guy and he gets hurt, and I can't get him to play until this time, well, then I get him for an extra year. The problem is he said he could play. Now, do we know that for sure? Are the team doctors, you know who the team doctors' allegiance is to? The team. Yeah. So they're going to back him up. But absolutely, I believe he has a beef here. Because let's be fair, what the hell are the Bengals doing with him? Like, why would you? You're not using him. You're going to keep running the red-headed scare out there to screw up teams and games.
The Red Rooster.
Yeah, you're going to keep running him out. So what's the point? What's the point? Just get rid of him. Trade him. Do something. But just leaving him limbo is crap. It's absolute crap.
You know what?
It's typical of why players go after so much money time and time again.
Touching back on the last thing about the McCarron trade.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe the Bengals should have emailed the Browns and said, dude, you forgot to copy the NFL, which is probably the most important person that needs to know about the trade, right?
Well, I mean, you would assume that, but again, look,
the thing is about here's the thing about the Bengals are a weird franchise because, like, they could have traded McCarron 3 times over and probably gotten pretty good value each time, right? There were a lot of teams interested in him. There was talk about, for a while, the Jets going after him, for example. I mean, granted, he hasn't proven anything, but still, you could have definitely gotten something for him. And you should have probably unloaded him right now at the last minute. Now, this guy could wind up winning and go test free agency. And I'm not saying he's going to get paid, but he's going to probably make decent money on the market, right?
Let's be fair.
Let's use the Glennon contract as an example.
The Denver Broncos, the New York Jets, the Buffalo Bills.
Maybe even the team like the Jags.
The Jags. The
Cardinals.
The Dolphins. Yeah. The Cardinals. Who else can use a quarterback? I mean, Jesus.
They're Bills.
But I'm saying, like, the point is that even though he's sort of unproven and he was not great in the playoff game he played in, like,
He could get paid
He's
because
going to
he's
get
a
paid
veteran with
because-
experience.
Because he has experience. He's played behind a guy, and people always think if you sit behind a guy that you're going to be better, and we just haven't tapped his potential yet, and there's always going to be a team that thinks they can do that.
Now, the thing is also at the same time, all he has to do with his agent is say, look, I'm going to start at the Glennon contract and work from there because Glennon is a crappy quarterback, and I think my guy's better. Right? Right?
I don't think he's going to say Glennon is a crappy quarterback.
But I'm
yes,
saying, like-
the gist of what you're saying is true.
Exactly.
I'm just nulling the Glennon is a crappy quarterback. Number 4, WFAN has finally announced that not one, but 3 people will take over for Mike Francesa, which is appropriate because he looks like 3 people, once he leaves the station on December 13th. Chris Carlin, Bart Scott, and Maggie Gray will handle his afternoon time slot, although it remains to be seen if the show will air from 1 to 6:30 or a different time. Multiple people reportedly turned down WFAN, including NFL QB Chris Sims. Why he's should do it, I don't know. Kimberly Jones, who would be great. Max Kellerman, who is crazy for turning it down. And, of course, CBS Sports Network, Adam Shine. Craig, are you inclined or less inclined to listen to WFAN after hearing who is replacing Francesa?
Well, I didn't really listen to Francesa that much to begin with. Only recently have I listened to Francesa over the last few weeks.
As
and
he
stuff.
gets older and more angry?
It's not even that. Just callers like the abuse and
Oh, man.
okay, he's really bad.
He's
really,
like a verbal sports dominatrix.
Now, here's the thing. He's not wrong sometimes
No,
because
no.
I think that there are some callers who call him with the most ridiculous things I've ever heard.
Just to get yelled at.
Now, yesterday, for example, he had a caller say that the Giants should go hire Adam Gase as their head coach. So the thing is, and he's like, well, why would they get rid of Adam Gase? And it's because, the Dolphins can go hire an offensive coordinator and they can let him go. He's not going anywhere. That's my point. So you get the dumb callers. Here's the thing about this lineup. I like Maggie Gray a lot because I've actually met her and she's very nice. And she works for CBS Sports Radio in the mornings on Saturdays with Malusis. But she's very good. She's actually very knowledgeable, too. And I think she'd be great for it, too, in that sense. My problem is I don't like Carlin at all. Bart Scott's out of his mind. And the thing is, when you have 3 people talking in one show at the same time, I don't know. I just don't think. I think it's too much. I think it's too many people in the room.
Well, they're going to have to do something like Maggie Gray is or Chris Carlin even, if Maggie Gray runs the show. I don't care. One of them, not Bart Scott, because he's the other guy. So, right? So, it's going to be one of the other two. It's going to have to be somebody who's the and character, right? Look, they're in the studio all the time. They do updates and they do stuff like that. But they're a part of the show, but they're not But
it's not going to be like that, though. It's going to be the same thing.
Which is going to be anarchy.
And the thing is, with Bart Scott yelling over Carlin, and Maggie Gray probably barely getting 2 words in a lot of times. I kind of have a feeling I know why they hired Maggie Gray to an extent. Maybe to try to gear towards women and stuff like that.
Or to get people to be like, Chris Christie doesn't work here anymore.
Yeah.
Come listen to
When
us.
I saw that, I thought it was Chris Christie. And then I saw it was Chris Carlin. So the thing
I would have never turned that station
The thing
on
is
ever
about,
again.
thank God it's not a TV show because Chris Carlin's chins take up an entire TV station.
Hey, be nice.
That's a little rough to watch. But overall, no. I think it'll be an okay show, but I think they'll just be yelling at each other the whole time, and it'll be tough to figure out who's with what.
Max Kellerman was so good on ESPN Radio. I would have absolutely listened to Max Kellerman
I'm
every day.
surprised he turned that down, unless maybe he didn't want to just do New York.
First take. It's 2 hours a day. You get paid. What are you going to do?
But this show is going to be easily 4 hours. In the afternoon.
That's what
right?
I'm saying, though. It's a long show. Now they should shorten it. They should have Evan and Joe go till 2, and then do 2 to 6:30, and then split it that way.
I had heard something like that. That's what was going to happen and stuff.
They should.
They were going to extend Beningo and Roberts to 2. But I don't know. Who knows at this point? But overall, man, it's going to take a while to get adjusted. But it's going to be rough the first month with 3 people kind of talking over each other.
Needless to say, we did not get the job.
And that is disappointing.
Because we would have been way funnier
than
Chris Carlin, Maggie Gray, and Bart Scott. Because I can say just as crazy things as Bart Scott can say. The only difference is the things that I say are true.
And you didn't play for the Jets.
No.
Or the Ravens.
Thank God for small favors.
That concludes the end of the half. We're going to get back into the show in general. Let's
switch.
All right, you like it, right? So let's segue.
Do some sports radio.
So let's segue to the NBA real quickly. We got about a little bit of time before polar bipolar. Segue to the Knicks last night. Tough loss to the Cavs. They played hard. They had a 23-point lead. Unfortunately, the Cavs just happened to be the better team in the fourth quarter, which pretty much ended it. I don't understand why LeBron James is all of a sudden the voice of the NBA. For example, I don't understand why you're going to rip Ntilikina.
Oh, he didn't though, Craig.
But according to him,
Sorry,
what
sorry.
the?
Sorry, I pressed the wrong button. Well, Family Feud. We're all in the family here. So,
Okay.
you know.
So here's the thing. I don't understand the point of ripping Ntilikina.
But he didn't, Craig.
But
He
apparently,
didn't, Craig.
it was a shot at Phil Jackson.
Only a shot at
but
Phil
I couldn't
Jackson.
figure that out either.
Because here's the thing. You can't rip the pick without ripping the player that got picked, right? If the Knicks had picked nobody, if the Knicks had just vacated that pick and said, we're not picking anybody, then you know what, LeBron, you can say that, and you're only ripping Phil Jackson. But if they pick a man in that spot, in this case, Frank Ntilikina of France, you're ripping that guy. It can also be ripping Phil. I get it. But here's my problem. First of all, let me say this. The Cavaliers, as in this incarnation of their team, are truly boring and predictable and sort of aggravating to watch because they literally do one thing. Because they have no point guard, so they have no offense. Their offense is give the ball to Wade, give the ball to LeBron, give the ball to Love, and then those guys, or J.R. Smith, and what they do is they dribble. They might pass to a guy, then they dribble, then they drive in, and when the defense collapses, they kick out to Kyle Korver, who stands there, and Kyle Korver has such a punchable face. I just want to punch him in the face because I hate one-dimensional players. It's all he does. He can't take anybody off the dribble. He can't play defense. All he can do is stand there and shoot threes, and that's all he did last night, and it beat the Knicks. But let me say this about LeBron, and then we'll get to a little bit about the game. LeBron, what little respect I had for LeBron is now gone after you tried to bully a rookie last night. You are the self-proclaimed king. You people consider you the greatest player in NBA history. I don't, because I watch Jordan play. But people do say that about you. And you're going to lower yourself to bully a friggin' rookie on the court in his home court? And by the way, I was very proud of Frank for pushing back a little bit there. You know what I mean? I don't care who you are.
If there's one guy I was happy about,
Enes Kanter?
Yeah.
Get right in
he
there,
get
Enes.
right in the face.
You
but on
Turkish
top of that,
badass.
but you know what he did at the same time? He responded to LeBron's BS.
Yeah.
He immediately came back and said, "This is our guy. He's working hard every day."
And Frank's been good, man.
I think he's been great.
Yo, he had 6 steals last night. So listen, it's going to be a journey, guys. The Knicks lost that game last night because they're a young team with leaders who are young. And so you had things where, like, Porzingis is 22 years old. He's learning how to win those games because those games were in Melo's hands the last couple years, right? So he's learning how to win those games. You have Frank Ntilikina, who's in his, what is that, his 11th game in the NBA, and he's learning how to play in the NBA. What you like about the Knicks is this. They play really good defense, team defense, and I'm going to do something right now, Craig, because I like to argue.
No kidding.
Right.
That's the understatement. That's the understatement of the year.
And sometimes I like to take the opposite side of the argument just to argue because I think it's fun and I think you should flesh out all sides of the argument.
Okay.
I'm going to make an argument on why bringing back Noah will not kill this team.
Well, why would it?
Well, because people think it's bad. Here's what I think. I think the Knicks were actually really smart, and actually nobody noticed it until we started playing and you started seeing the rotations. The Knicks, when they got now I'm not sure they thought of this when they did it, but when they got Kanter and they got McDermott, now McDermott aside, when they got Kanter, right, and they knew they had Kanter and they had O'Quinn, and everybody was talking in the offseason, oh, well, listen, you can play Porzingis at the 5, you can go with a small wing team, blah, blah, blah. The Knicks were never going to do that. The Knicks are saving Porzingis' body by getting guys like Kanter, like O'Quinn, and by keeping guys out. If they could get rid of Noah's contract, they wouldn't a second, but activating him instead of just cutting him and swallowing the money, because those are guys in games, say if Kanter gets hurt or if O'Quinn gets hurt, where he will be down below bashing his body, where Porzingis doesn't have to do it.
Here's another thing, too, with regards to Noah, and I'll say this because I've seen it time and time again in sports. As far as I'm concerned, I don't think there's any such thing as a non-tradable contract.
Oh, no, I agree.
So in many ways, I think if Noah plays hard and he plays well, teams will come calling. Now, the Knicks will have to take somebody back they don't like or they don't want.
But if it's at a position of need, you
exactly,
might do that.
You will do that. The Knicks are playing well right now. I mean, they're playing better than I would have expected.
Let's be fair.
Okay.
If Noah gets 5 minutes a game, that's going to be a lot.
But what you kind of see, and I think you'll agree with me, and maybe it was just a case of, listen, I'm not saying that he deserved to be moved out of town, but this team is playing looser without Melo. I don't feel like it centers around Melo anymore because it's not like you got to give him the ball right away.
I would agree with you, but I think it's more. And listen, the Melo thing is huge. Don't. I'm not downplaying the Melo thing, but as far as their play on the court, now I think the defensive side of the ball is much better because they know that every guy on the court is going to play defense, unlike Melo, who just didn't play defense all the time. But I think it's, and I hate to quote LeBron after I diss LeBron, but he's right. They're not playing an antiquated offense anymore. They're playing an NBA-style offense. They're playing an offense that they've played their whole life. And these guys are running up and down the court, and you see guys like Porzingis. You see guys like Lee. All of a sudden, Lee is like this Energizer bunny off the bench. And
I'll give you another guy, McDermott.
McDermott's been great.
Played really well.
Cuts great off the ball. He's big from the outside, and he's played better defense. But to be honest, it's and I'll say this too, and he got off to a very slow start. But listen, the contract isn't amazing. But compared to what some guys make, Tim Hardaway Jr.'s contract isn't that insane when you watch how he played last night. He had an all-around great game last night. When his outside shot wasn't working, he drove to the basket. He played good defense. He got a bunch of rebounds. He had a bunch of assists, and he hit a couple big shots. Like, Tim Hardaway Jr. has played well. And in the construct of this team, you don't necessarily need, I want to say it's like, like Golden State Light, right? Like you're always trying to find the open guy. So as long as your guys hit the shots, everyone's going to get points. Courtney Lee has been excellent. He played excellent against LeBron in the first half last night. I think LeBron had like 8 points in the first half of that game or something, maybe 12 points. Right. And he played excellent against him. He's been great on the offensive end, hitting his threes. When the outside shot isn't there, driving to the basket, right? You have a lot of guys. KP last night didn't have a lot of points, but he made a lot of great passes out of the double teams. Now, they didn't always go in, but him passing out of the double team, and he would wait for it. He would dribble back in, and when LeBron would step down, he'd kick out. It's a good sign that these guys, now, at the end of the game, and I feel like the last 2 minutes of the game, they should always get Clyde to be in the huddle because he always says it right. He's always right. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the game, the reason they lost is because they stopped moving the basketball. They shot it down. It was like Melo was back. They threw it down to KP. He dribble, and maybe pass out of a double team. Maybe try to take a shot. Guys were just too much one-on-one. They didn't move the ball around. They didn't win the game. What are you going to do? They're a young team. This is how you learn, right? They beat them on their home floor. They lost on the home floor. They were up by 23. They blew the lead. Next time they'll know that you don't let up. You stick your foot on the neck until they're dead. And that's what you do. But if nothing else, it's exciting basketball to watch. The Knicks are fun to watch. They play good, scrappy defense. They share the ball on offense. They're always trying to find the open man. You're getting a lot of back cuts. You're getting a lot of easy dunks, easy layups, and it's fun to watch.
And the thing is, sometimes maybe as a Knicks fan, that's all you just want to see right now. You just want to see some excitement from your team. I'll segue back to
the Jets.
I'll segue back to the Jets for a minute. What did I say at the very beginning of the season? I said I didn't think they were going to be a good team, but as long as they're competitive, that's all I cared about. Okay, I didn't want to see them getting their doors blown off every week because then it's just not fun to watch.
Of course.
Okay, but if they're out there playing hard and they play their butts off and they lose, I'll be annoyed that they lost, but I'll also be happy with the fact that they played their hardest.
Yeah.
When you see it around here with the New York media and like the sports radio shows are just ridiculous, especially with the Jets, because as soon as they lose a game, it's the biggest embarrassment they've ever been a part of. There's been 20, I can think of 20 other more horrible Jet games than the one I watched Sunday.
Yeah, their offense was bad.
Okay.
What are you going to do?
But sometimes this is what's going to happen. They're just not going to play their best, and they're going to go into a game that they should win, and they lose. And the thing is that maybe they were a little overconfident. I don't know. But listen, the Bucks may be having a bad season, but they're still a decent team, right?
Right. They have a good defense. They have good defensive line. But I tweeted this out actually at my other Twitter account, which I won't say, but you can see it on Polar Opposites. Polar Opposites 1 is that the parallels are crazy this year when it comes to the New York sports teams. The Yankees, Jets, and Knicks all are playing above what people thought in the beginning of the year. Now, I know the Yankees made it to Game 7 of the ALCS, but not one person predicted that in the beginning of the year. Not one. In fact, according to what all those stupid ESPN stats, you did it as a jerk, so that doesn't count. But I think one of the ESPN stats had them finishing last. So, nobody predicted it. Now, they made it farther than the Jets and Knicks probably will, but it's a little, they can do that in baseball. But, if you look at the teams, it's all young players who are on the up. You have guys that are playing hard. They're having fun. They're fast and loose. And the other thing, too, is that all three teams unloaded a lot of old, broken down players and bad maybe guys off the team. And I'm not saying that about necessarily the Yankees but I think getting rid of McCann, getting rid of Beltran, as great as those guys are, it makes more room for the they still have CeCe, but
that's what the Knicks had. The Knicks could have probably done that last year, but they couldn't find anybody to take Melo, and then he was holding it up all summer before they finally were able to make the deal with the Thunder. So the Knicks could have been a year ahead of this already, but unfortunately they still had Melo under contract, and he wasn't really budging to leave New York. It's the same thing I said. Even we'll just jump to the Nets really quickly.
No, I was actually going to get
the Nets were a team kind of the same thing. They went after Darren Williams, they went after Paul Pierce, they went after Kevin Garnett.
Yep.
They had their little run. It really went nowhere, but it was better than nothing, as far as I'm concerned, because it wasn't like they missed the playoffs. They made it. They just couldn't get past the first round until they beat Toronto. But then they realize that it just wasn't working out. They get rid of the contracts. Garnett goes to Minnesota. Pierce pretty much goes to the Wizards. Williams, they buy out Williams. And now they start bringing in younger guys and they bring in a coach like Kenny Atkinson, who's very big on development, player development. On top of that, they have no first-round pick.
Right.
So they come up with an idea to take on a bloated contract of a young player, hence Alan Crabb. Okay? And then they get D'Angelo Russell, who is the point guard they want to build around. They want to build around a first round player, a number 2 overall pick.
Yeah.
How do you say no to that? This is what you're seeing in the league. But then when you see other teams like Detroit, I'm going to use Detroit as an example. I'm going to use who else? I'll even use the Clippers as an example to an extent. You just keep recycling the same veterans, and you're pretty much in the same spot, right?
Yeah.
And you're not going to win with these guys.
You're going to be the same every year, mediocre.
So in that sense, it's fun to be a Knicks fan again, and you should enjoy it. And you should enjoy the fact, don't automatically assume that they're going to be a playoff team or they're going to be a championship team. Just enjoy the games because, quite frankly, this is the best I've seen the Knicks play in a long time.
Well, and also what you have is you have guys like Cantor and O'Quinn crashing the offensive boards, right? You have point guards that are penetrating and dishing. You have guys playing defense. You have Ntilikina, who's got these crazy long arms for a guy 6'6", and he's just throwing his hands in the passing lanes and he's stealing balls at a crazy rate for a rookie. You have a lot of things that are going well right now. Now listen, they haven't played a lot of road games. If the Knicks are 500 at the end of the year, it will be a spectacular year for the Knicks. Let me just say that. I expect the Knicks to win anywhere between 25 and 35 games. I know that's a large window, but it's going to be depending on if KP stays healthy the whole year and a lot of other things. But what you're seeing right now is one thing, and that's that it wasn't Jeff Hornacek.
If anything, Hornacek is coaching a little more loose now without Jackson over his shoulder.
Do you remember how good he was in Phoenix?
He was good in Phoenix.
He was great in Phoenix. And then the entire team got hurt. The entire first starting 5 got hurt. And then they started crapping the bed and they blamed it on him. Jeff Hornacek is a good coach. And if you don't remember, go watch. Jeff Hornacek was a great basketball player. He was a great scorer. For an undersized white guy, he was an excellent scorer for those Utah Jazz teams. Really good. You should check him out. It's on YouTube, I'm sure. He's wearing the really short shorts. They're terrible.
And if you don't believe me, just play Lakers versus Celtics from Sega Genesis because he was lights out in that game.
Oh,
too.
Fantastic. That dude could hit he was hitting Steph Curry shots before Steph Curry was even born. The game, anyway, not in real life.
The best move of that game, hands down, was the Tom Chambers double pump from the three-point line.
Yeah.
It was like a 7-footer just flying across your TV screen to dunk the ball. Only on Sega Genesis could that be possible.
Let's do real quick. We got about, 5 minutes or so before we get to polar bipolar.
I have something for you,
yes.
And I meant to bring it up. We didn't get a chance to talk about it.
Do it.
There was a story in New York on Saturday about how the Mets are talking about basically shutting down their pitchers after two rounds through a lineup each game. I'm not necessarily talking about Syndergaard and DeGrom, but I'm talking about Matz and Harvey. Lugo if he winds up making the rotation, if he's not in the bullpen, or Gazelman.
So you're talking about
Basically, they get 2 turns around whoever's starting lineup, and then they're going to pull him for the bullpen.
so
Do
the
you think
max
that-
you could get out of them would be what, 6 innings?
At best, max. And that's really pushing it. Because if they have a bad outing, they're going to only go 4 or 5. Do you think that makes any type of difference compared to whether you just had a guy go, having more confidence? Or is it just the fact that Matz and Harvey are just injury prone that it's not going to matter?
Well, here's what I'll say. If your plan to do that is to have Matz and Harvey rotate on the same day and to have Lugo and Gazelman on the same day, then yeah, it's a fine. You can maybe get away with that for a little while, right? And then one of them's going to blow up one day and it's going to ruin your bullpen for a week. But I mean, if you're saying like Matz is going to go 4 innings, Harvey's going to go 4 innings.
No, I think it just depends on who they're playing and if they get knocked around.
Listen, they can do that if they want. They can try that. They have a pitching coach as their head coach, so as their manager, I should say. So like they can try it, but one of the Mets' biggest problems has been their bullpen. And do you really unless Sandy Alderson is actually going to do something to fortify that bullpen, then you can't do that. You can't.
Unless that bullpen is as strong as the Yankees back end with Robertson, Betances, and Chapman, then maybe I would consider it.
But I wouldn't even then, because those guys are going to be ruined by the end of the year too.
But at the same time, I think that basically this is their plan for Matz and Harvey because they're so injury prone. But the thing is, maybe they're just injury prone at this stage in their career.
But here's my thing: if that's your plan, then just make him a reliever.
That's my point. That's another option too. And just go get a couple of other, low-level starters.
Yeah, I mean, like if you want to do that, then just do it and make them a reliever where they pitch 1 or 2 innings every couple days, like what Chad Green was for the Yankees, where he pitched 2-3 innings at a pop, and then he'd have 2 or 3 days off in between. You can do that, but the other way just seems like you're half pregnant. It seems like you don't want to make them a reliever because you're afraid it'll offend them or something, or whatever your reasoning is, but you don't want to make them a full starter because they're too injury prone. So this is the Mets trying to overthink something that really doesn't need to be overthunk. Look at guys like Dellin Betances. Look at these guys. They were, Dellin Betances at one point was like a number 4 prospect for the Yankees as a starting pitcher, and he became a reliever. Maybe Harvey, who used to have swag, maybe he can get that back as a closer. I mean, like, the guy can still pitch. Like, we've seen hints of it here and there, but he just can't pitch 6, 7, 8 innings at a time. He can't. So make him a reliever.
We got about 30 seconds before Polar Bipolar. Just to remind everybody, we are the Polar Opposites. Check out our podcast at polaropposites.podbean.com, iTunes, Spreaker.com, TuneIn Radio. I'm sorry, we have 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Yeah. We're good.
My apologies.
No
So that gives me a
worries.
little more time to plug the show.
Yeah.
We are at polaropposites.podbean.com, iTunes, Spreaker.com, TuneIn Radio, and follow us on Twitter at PolarOpposites1. And again, a reminder to our listeners, next Tuesday night, 9 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Matt and I are going to be live on StrongIsland.tv and on Facebook Live as well. We are taking callers for that show, and we'll give out the number later in the week and also before the show, during the show airs. So we hope you check us out. Last week we were
516
There we go.
945 49099.
one more time, Maddie.
516-945-9099. That'll be next Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, Facebook Live, Strong Island Radio TV.
Polar Opposites.
Indeed.
All right, Maddie, you ready to do this?
Hold on, I got a minute here.
Oh, okay, here we go. My bad.
I want to say that just real quick. Carlos Beltran retired.
Yes.
We're not talking about that, right?
No, it's not in
okay.
it.
And I just want to say that there's been a lot of talk. Like, is Carlos Beltran a Hall of Famer? And the answer to the question is yes, because I think when you have borderline Hall of Fame numbers as a everyday player, I think when you are exceptional in the postseason, I think that should put you over the line. Do you agree?
Yes, I do.
So you would think Carlos Beltran should be
Maybe not a first ballot Hall of Famer, but eventually,
no. Yeah, maybe on the Veterans Committee, but I think he should get in.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. That's it. You ready to do a little polar?
I'm ready to do it if you are. We are now closing our show with Polar Bipolar as 10 topics. Polar, you agree. Bipolar, you disagree. Ooh. And this is, once again, the one segment where Maddie will get confused and he will say, oh, is bipolar yes? And polar means no? Right? You almost did it last week.
I will.
All right. So, Maddie, are you ready?
Ho! 5, 1, 6, 9, 4, 5, 9, 0, 9, 9. That'll be next Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, Facebook Live, Strong Island Radio TV. Polar Opposites.
All right. So, Maddie, are you ready? All right, Maddie, here we go. Polar, bipolar. The Saints are the favorite to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl.
I'm going to say bipolar because at this point they're going to have to go to the Eagles, and that game's going to be in January, and that game's going to be cold unless it's one of these global warming days where it's 80 degrees and sunny. It's going to be cold and possibly snowy and rainy. And I understand that the Saints have a better defense than they've had in years and a better running game than they've had in years. But again, it's one of those things in sports. Well, until I see it happen, I can't go for it. Until I see the Saints actually win a game outside at a big spot, I can't actually think they're going to do it. All right, number 2, Hugh Jackson is on borrowed time as a coach of the Browns.
This is polar. And the thing is, I've defended Hugh Jackson. Like, I've always liked the hire. I've never said I didn't like the hire and everything. I always thought he was a good offensive coach. But I'm just seeing too many listen, it's one thing if you have a young team, and this has been like this now for 2 years. But it's a totally different thing when this team is not taking a step forward in development. And that's a huge deal. And while I understand Deshaun Kaiser's a third-round pick, and you kind of threw him out to the Wolves on this one, none of the players on this team, none of the players who were in last year to the year before to now have really taken any huge steps forward. And that is on the coaching. And that is on Hugh Jackson. So for me, I hate to say it because I think that the last thing the Browns need is another head coach. And to be honest, I don't think anybody's going to want to take that job because there's no lifespan there. So in that sense, but the thing is, the mistakes are too much to overcome at this late in the year. And a perfect example is what I said before about the audible. Kaiser audibles to a QB sneak. Well, who is the one that plans the audible? It's him, and it's not Kaiser. Kaiser doesn't call an audible, call a QB sneak. It's what he's told to do by Jackson and whoever his offensive coordinator is. That's a coaching issue. So in that sense, yeah, I really do think, I hate to say it because I like Hugh Jackson and I like the hire, but I think he's done as coach of the Browns after this year. Maddie, number 3, polar or bipolar, J.D. Martinez will get a $200 million contract from a desperate team.
And the only reason I'm going to say polar to this is because you put desperate in there. Okay? Because I think if all the teams weren't desperate, he wouldn't get that much money. But I absolutely think there's going to be a team that gives it to him. Whether it's the San Francisco Giants, if they don't get Giancarlo Stanton, whether it's, any team. Maybe the Arizona Diamondbacks. Who knows? Maybe the Dodgers, if they decide that that's what they need. Maybe, the Rockies don't really need him, but
Martinez's stat line last year between
give it to me.
119 games for the Tigers and Diamondbacks. 303.
Yep.
45 homers, 119 RBIs.
Yeah.
166 OPS.
Yes. He did, off that, yes. The problem is he's only been that once. He's been more not that than that, and so that's why I wouldn't give him $200 million, but a desperate team will. Simple as that. Number 4, Craig, there is no rhyme or reason to the Yankees' managerial search.
I'm going to say polar because I just can't figure out what they're looking for, and I just keep hearing these random names. Like these guys are random right now.
They're looking. Do you ever watch The Love Boat?
Yeah.
You know the woman who ran all the events?
Julie.
Yeah, Julie, the entertainment. That's who they're looking for. A male version of that. That's who they're looking for.
But that's what I'm saying, though, because I'm hearing Aaron Boone. I'm hearing Raul Ibanez. I even heard Carlos Beltran the other day. I even heard Hensley Bam Bam Mullins.
Dude, he's a middleman. At least Hensley Mullins is a bench coach for the San Francisco Giants. So that's fine.
I thought he was in Japan coaching a team in Japan.
No,
I remember that's where he was for a while.
He's the bench coach for the Giants.
I don't know what they're looking for, and they're being very hush-hush about it, but I guess the one thing is I'm not a Yankees fan, but I can't really second-guess Cashman, right? Cashman's made some pretty strong decisions as general manager of this team.
But at this point, it's all on Cashman. Any decision that's made is Cashman's decision.
Number 5, Matty, polar or bipolar, the Bills are exactly who we thought they were.
A mediocre team that will never go anywhere with the quarterback they have? Yes, that is absolutely polar. They will never be anything better until they get an actual quarterback.
There are people in Buffalo hoping to see Nate Peterman now. The 5th-round pick they drafted.
Yeah, enjoy it, guys, because guess what? Maybe Nate Peterman will be good. I don't know. Probably not. But until you guys haven't had a quarterback since Jim Kelly. So get a quarterback.
Actually, I'm going to say Bledsoe. I'm going to give them Bledsoe.
Stop.
I'm going to give them Bledsoe. Bledsoe was good in Buffalo. You're going to get him in the playoffs, but he was a good quarterback. The rest of that team just wasn't that good.
Either way, yes, they're exactly where they thought they were. Mediocre and aggravating. Number 6, the second year for a new head coach in the NFL is more important than the first year.
I say polar because while the first year is more of just kind of the feeling out process for guys like Sean McVay, for even a guy like Todd Bowles from last year, the fact is you're going to be more judged on how you do the year after because you're going to be playing tougher teams. So, for example, the Rams are really good this year. So next year they're going to probably get a really tough schedule. Can they be as good? Can Jared Goff remain good? as the starting quarterback? Can McVay build on this year for next year? Okay, that's going to be a big deal because if you take a step back, it's going to look bad either way you look at it. So in many ways, I think the second year in the NFL for a new head coach is definitely more important because the first year, it's very, very, very rare you get fired in the first year as a head coach unless it's with the Browns.
Agreed.
Number 7, Maddie, when all is said and done, polar or bipolar, Giancarlo Stanton will be a member of the Boston Red Sox.
I'm going to say bipolar to this because according to some reports, he doesn't want to go there. He's already said he won't accept the trade to the Cardinals and the Red Sox. Now, again, like if they come to you and say this is where the only people that'll take you, you're going there. But he has a no-trade clause, so he actually gets to control. It would be perfect for him to go to the Red Sox because that would complete their transition into being the old Yankees by basically acquiring every big contract in the world. So please, by all means, Giancarlo, go to the Yankees and have Aaron Judge be better than you for the next 10 years. Number 8, the Orioles need to trade Manny Machado before spring training.
I say polar, and I think you need to get starting pitching. I think that's probably the most important thing. Here's the sad part about the Orioles free agency. 3 of their 5 starting pitchers, Jeremy Hellickson, Ubaldo Jimenez, and Chris Tillman, will most likely not be back with the Orioles because they're just so bad. And the thing is, I don't know if teams are going to really go after those guys. Maybe Tillman, I think he's got potential, but Hellickson and Ubaldo are exactly who they are. This is their best tradable asset. Unless they have a deal in the works to keep Manny Machado there now, you can't take that risk going into the season, right?
Right, no.
Because you can't go to the trade deadline. You're not going to get nearly as much as you could get for him. So I think for the Orioles, I think Manny Machado and Zach Britton are your 2 most tradable commodities. I think you trade them now and trade them while they're high rather than wait, at a price, not that high, right? You trade them now while you can get the most you can out of them for the upcoming season. So I say absolutely polar. Maddie, number 9, polar or bipolar. The new Justice League movie can't be any worse than Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice.
Anything can be worse. Okay, it absolutely could be worse. It could totally be worse, and might be worse, because they have Aquaman in it. Does anybody give a rat's patoot about Aquaman? And also, this is where DC loses me. Marvel is smart about this. If there's a character on TV who plays a character, and that character appears in a movie, the character from the TV is in the movie. They have a very successful television show on WB called The Flash, and they have a totally different guy playing The Flash in the movie than on the TV show. So they don't cross-promote. They don't do anything right. And now you have Wonder Woman saying that she might not do the sequel to Wonder Woman unless Bru Ratner... Yeah, she denied it. I'm telling you, that's what she did. She did it, and I hope she did, because it's exactly what should happen. The guy's a punk and a jackass, but also this movie's going to be terrible. Mostly because it has Aquaman, but biggestly because... And biggestly is not a word, but I'm making it a word. Biggestly because Ben Affleck is Batman, which ruins every movie for me going forward. Number 10, Stephanie and Shane McMahon need to stop interviewing themselves. Intervening themselves, into any of the WWE pay-per-views.
This is polar. I mean, the thing is, every time, listen, you don't follow wrestling, obviously, but basically with the Survivor Series coming up, now you got Triple H involved in the match, and Shane McMahon's involved in the match, and which means Shane McMahon's going to do his usual jump off the top of a cage or whatever and kill myself onto the announce table move and whatever. And the thing is, I'm sorry, but I can't stand Stephanie McMahon. She sounds like a man, and I can't deal with it anymore. It sounds like she literally is growing a set of balls, and I can't deal with it. It's really frustrating, and she's annoying, and she tries too hard to be like her father.
Right.
Vince can pull it off. You cannot pull it off. And I think that every time they get themselves involved, they just can't work behind the scenes anymore. Nope, they got to be on TV. It kills the product so much. So in that sense, yes, they need to stop intervening themselves because I'm just sick of seeing the same spots and the same crap. If I want to see a McMahon, I'd rather see Vince because, like I said, he can pull it off. He's the architect of the WWE. He's the founder, but he's also just a better asshole on TV and radio and on these shows than they can. They just can't pull it off. So I say
it's like Donald Trump Jr. and Donald Trump. Donald Trump Jr. is a complete jackwagon. Now, Donald Trump is as well, but people like him a lot more for some reason as that jackwagon.
And that bipolar is officially over. Do we have time?
We do. We have, what'd you say, it's 6:25? We got, 2 minutes.
Okay, here we go. Before we get to the close of the show, here's an interesting trade rumor.
Yeah.
Tell me what you think.
Do it.
Cubs trade Jason Hayward to the Giants for Samardzija and Melancon.
If you're the Giants, why the hell would you do that? I don't understand. Could somebody please explain to me why everybody loves this guy so much? Please! Please, I would really love to know why you're going to go, oh, yeah, that seems like a super good contract. Let me take that contract for 2 crappy contracts that I have. But Jason Hayward sucks. Oh, I don't understand. I got one for you.
Go.
How delicious is it going to be when Kyrie beats LeBron in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Final and watch LeBron cry like a baby as he doesn't
Well, that's what
go
he
to the
always
finals.
does. He's a major sore loser when they lose, and they lose in the playoffs. He blames it's never his fault, even though he plays well. I'm not saying he doesn't.
Did you hear what he said today?
No, I
know
he praised the Knicks after they
what's
beat
the
him,
dude
but-
that's hurt? He's coming back. Isaiah Thomas.
Yeah.
He was like, it'll be nice to have like a guy. He basically was like praising Isaiah Thomas while taking a shot at Kyrie, which is typical of LeBron's ballless behavior.
Yeah, so typical year after year after year. And that's it for us, the Polar Opposites. We are done. Check us out again, as always, polaropposites.podbean.com, iTunes, Spreaker.com, TuneIn Radio. Follow us on Twitter at PolarOpposites1. Next Tuesday night, 9 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we are going to be live on StrongIsland.tv and on Facebook Live as well. Maddie, do you want to give them the number one more time?
I don't.
Oh, for the love of God.
I don't. But I want to say
you're a
this. While I'm
disgrace.
looking for the number, I'm going to tell you this. When you're watching it, please like and share it as well.
Yes,
so that
because-
other people can watch and like and share.
Sharing is
and
caring,
that number
people.
is 516-945-9099.
Sharing is caring, people.
516-945-9099.
So again, next Tuesday night, 21st, 9 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will be live on StrongIsland.tv and on Facebook Live, and please like and share it. Enjoy the games, enjoy the week, and we will talk to you next week on StrongIsland.tv.
Bye.